Lionsgate, one of the many major studios still making movies and shows that people want to see. But if you want to be alive to see those shows, don't kill any dogs. Or else. This is not financial advice. All I'm doing is condensing this big document into a video so you don't have to read it. I'll cover what they do, go into their financials, and also do a SWOT analysis. Their business model is a pure play content company. They want to make movies and then make money off that. Then they also want to license their old movies that they have in their library to streamers and others. This fiscal year, they released 27 movies in theaters. They've released movies like Flight Risk, which by the way did quite well, and this is global box office numbers, both domestic and internationally, and it does not include any licensing deals that they had with any other streamers to put it on there. There's Den of Thieves 2, which is also quite solid, but they do have a couple of flops. Borderlands. Rough, very rough. Megalopolis, that's even rougher, not great. And The Crow 2. More recently, they have released another movie in the John Wick series with Ana de Armas called Ballerina. It's done extremely well, but it doesn't count because that's in the next fiscal year. Overall, a lot of big swings, a lot of misses, but some hits. But thankfully, not every single swing is 100 million. They do make movies for quite a lot cheaper. Also in the catalog of shows and other movies that they have in their library, they have The Rookie, Power, Yellow Jacket, Naked and Afraid, Hunger Games, The Expendables, Twilight, Now You See Me, The Hitman's Bodyguard, and despite what anyone says, that movie is... love it. Breaking down the revenues by category, the motion pictures includes old movies that they've licensed to streamers and others, and also new movies that they've released recently. Theater revenues for movies released this year is 10%. By the way, that's from US and Canada. Ticket revenues are usually front-loaded, with most of the profits going to the studios for the first few days, but as more and more time passes, the money goes in a bigger chunk or bigger proportion to the theaters. This category also includes the movies that are just put on streamers straight away on day one. The next category is home entertainment, and this is their content library. They license to streamers and allow people to buy or rent movies from their home. Next category is TV, and that's just the same thing except it's on a linear network instead of a streamer. And here are the international segments, which is anywhere outside the US and Canada, and other, because they do a few other auxiliary stuff. It isn't a secret that the movie business isn't doing great. They are facing some big problems with piracy, which they've been facing for quite a while, and content being much easier to make. For example, this. You see this like $12 million set? It's like a wall, it's like... Okay, that joke was pretty bad. I don't know if I should include it, but it's in there. They are taking steps to mitigate the risk of some of their movies. The first is bringing in partners for financing and pre-licensing the movies internationally, which is kind of sneaky. Because if they're good, well, the people who pre-license them, they're going to make enough money. They're going to be happy. But if the movie is bad, well, they already paid most of the money. Naturally, each deal is different, so we don't know the ins and outs of every deal. But depending on the performance of Lionsgate's movies, that could have negative long-term consequences. And just so we're clear, they said they pre-licensed their movies internationally, so I assume that they had a set price, but that could be wrong. Another way is by giving actors a share of the profits and reducing the upfront cash given. TV shows are broken down similarly, except the theater segment, because you don't watch TV shows in the theater. The TV segment comprises of shows that are licensed to linear or cable TV networks, and it also includes the shows that are on streamers on day one too. This is just when the shows are played on international networks, and this is when they are rented, bought, or on a streamer. And this is a little bit of other. The revenues for this fiscal year are $3.2 billion. People have simply gone out less than pre-pandemic levels, and that has cut down on ticket revenues, which is how they used to make a lot of their money. Movies today are also competing with short form on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. This is a personal thought, but whenever I try to go watch a movie, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. So I always spend like 20 minutes just fiddling with the remote, trying to find out which one I want to watch. Because I'm not interested in wasting 2 hours of my life. So picking one just feels like a much heavier choice. I'm be honest, who else has spent at least 10 minutes deciding between movie A and movie B? But on YouTube or the socials, it knows me. It knows exactly what I like. So whenever I go on their site, I know I'll be happy and satisfied. They do also have live experiences, and the most recent one is the John Wick experience. It appears to bring you into the world of the Baba Yaga, and they have a functional bar. It's in Vegas if you want to go check it out. The reviews online do seem to be mixed. They recently spun off Starz, which is a premium streamer. They bought it in 2016 for a mix of cash and stock. Evidently, it wasn't great, so they decided to spin it off. And for reference, today, the market cap is under $300 million. If you had one share of the old Lionsgate, you now have one share of the new Lionsgate Studios and Starz. The reason for the split is because they wanted to license their movies and shows to the highest bidder. because they need the green. Among the Hollywood studios, they do have one of the bigger libraries. The benefits is that Lionsgate can just focus on making excellent content. Another benefit is that some streamers may be a little less apprehensive about licensing content from Lionsgate Studios because they don't have a competing product. And some might just want to buy you, but they don't want stars. But you do open yourself up to some risks though, because streamers are making their own content. And what if they say, you know what? We don't want to buy your stuff, or we're going to pay you $2 to license it for a year. They decide, you know what, this year we're going to cut back on spending. Lionsgate won't really have many other places to put their movies and shows. That could be bad. And thing is, as movies age, generally their value does degrade. Okay, now it's time to talk financials. Normally a year starts January 1st and ends on December 1st, but Lionsgate has picked a different fiscal year. Their fiscal year starts on April 1st and ends on March 31st of the next year. So fiscal 2025 is April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. That's why the new John Wick movie, Ballerina, doesn't really count. Revenues-wise, their motion picture business had a slight decline because fiscal 2024, again, that's April 2023 to March 2024, they released John Wick 4, The Hunger Games, and a few others, and it is hard to do better than that. The TV part did increase by $276 million because they bought E1 in 2023, but since they didn't have it for the full year, they only recognized a portion of the revenues, $114 million to be specific. But since they owned it the entire fiscal 2025, they recognized $592 million. So after direct operating, distribution, general and administrative, depreciation, and restructuring, they are left with a little bit of money. But that does turn into a loss, and long-term debt does go up. But thankfully, it's not all doom and gloom. Their total liabilities did stay the same, and in Q4, they did make a profit. Albeit a small one, they did make a profit. Let's hope that trend does continue on. Take what I'm about to say with a big grain of salt. Management says that because of the split from Stars, they paid a lot of one-time costs that don't really represent how the business is doing, and that we shouldn't factor in some of those, and this is how management looks at the business. So I'll present it, but you be the judge of just how accurate this is. If we go back to operating income and remove some of these costs, the segment profit is $444 million. Again, do also realize that they do have a financial interest in making you see their business in a good light, but it could also be true. Looking at the overall video landscape, there are other companies with massive video libraries too. I mean, there's Disney, Universal, Paramount, Netflix. I would consider YouTube even up there too. Although they're all a little bit different, all of these guys are competing for these same eyeballs. It's a tough market for content. They could live by acting as a little boost to these guys' big catalogs and by making movies that people want to watch and then subsequently putting them up on streamers. But don't forget about the linear TV business. A lot of their money does come from there, and it is a dying medium. There's also one more critical thing to cover relating to the movie business: the use of AI. Okay, where do I start? You know what, let's start before OpenAI shocked the world. Because AI has been in use before. For example, a voice enhancer. You just upload the audio, the software does its little magic, it cleans it up, and it sounds a whole lot clearer. Slight cost savings, time savings, overall, great. I don't think that many people complained about it. But then the Fire Nation attacked. All of a sudden, you could generate a video without even having a camera. When you watch it, you can easily tell it's AI, but it is getting better. And the question is, how will this affect the industry? Regarding scripts, the Writers Guild said you can only use it to help writers. You cannot use it to replace them. Which, good on them, because if they did not say that, I would be incredibly suspicious. Like, do you not see the existential threat that this could pose? It could be used for things like script analysis, but that's not where the real fear lies. The real fear lies in AI that just eliminates the need for camera operators, actors, directors, everyone. The first proof of concepts will probably be found on YouTube, and we'll see what sort of mix of both human and AI just input is required to create actually decent content. Like maybe each scene will have to be split in 3-second increments and just modified and tweaked continuously to get to the desired results. There are also cases that are dealing with the use of IP in the content and the fact that they can generate, for example, a Baby Yoda. And even the studios should be very, very nervous. Because, and this is a crazy future, what if you could just copy and paste an entire book into it and tell it, hey, make me a 9-hour movie? That would change everything about how we make movies. But that is speculation, so again, big grain of salt. Since AI has been trained on copyrighted works, there could also be some potential legal remedies. All that matter is still way in the courts, and there doesn't seem to be any clear answer as of yet. so I won't comment on that for now. But Lionsgate is also partnering with an AI firm called Runway to train on its movies and just, experiment a little. See what you can do with it. Back to the company, it's led by this guy, John Feldheimer. He's been CEO since 2000 and has been extended his contract until 2029. A long almost 30 years with the company. SWOT analysis strength-wise, as a pure play content company, they can just focus on making the absolute best movies or shows and then shopping around to get the most amount of money for it. They also do have a relatively strong IP catalog and brand recognition. Weaknesses-wise, many of the big movies that Lionsgate has worked on were in the early 2010s. Their movies recently, some of them have not been performing well. Although that is an industry-wide phenomenon, so it's not 100% on them. They also do have a large amount of debt, which did grow this year and are barely profitable this quarter. I'm not even talking about the entire year, because that's negative again. Opportunities-wise, they can potentially be bought by a big company, for example, let's say Apple, or just be bought by another studio. They also might merge or partner with others to create a more competitive streaming service. Another one. AI will also probably reduce costs, but things are very complicated politically, legally, technologically, ethically, so I'll leave it there. They also launched a podcast division, but they are facing some very tough competition from everybody else with a mic on the internet. Threats-wise, it's a much more competitive landscape with all the new entertainment forms, like for example, video games, short form. They do also have to continue their fight against piracy, and they have not been really doing that great over the, decades that they've been fighting them for. And again, what happens if streamers say, you know what, we don't really want to buy your stuff, we're going to use our internal content and decide to just cut them off. Data revenue is not enough to support them anymore. Lionsgate is in a precarious situation. They've made a lot of movies that I love, and hopefully they can continue to make some great movies. Like, sub, let me know what you guys want to see in the future, or if you guys even like this format. Anyway guys, peace, goodbye.